Kiki is excited to become a witch. She picked the perfect night to leave home. The forecast predicts gentle winds and clear skies. Her mom thinks it's too soon for her to leave, but our girl really wants to start her witch's training. She can barely fly and doesn't have any other magic skills, but Kiki's ready to go. After all, she's almost 13. Despite the European architecture, this is a very culturally Japanese film. Not only is Kiki leaving home at almost 13, but she doesn't even know where she's going, and again, she can barely fly. In a lot of mainstream Western media, magical folk tend to have to go to school to learn stuff. There's a specific pedagogy young people should follow. Not saying there's not a proliferation of high school anime with magical persons, but I struggle to think of the Western equivalent to, say, Black Butler, where a young person in a magic context has a profound level of agency. Here, Kiki is expected to find a new town that doesn't already have a witch, develop a skill set on her own, feed and house herself, and find a way to be of service to people. There's a certain irony that this seemingly innocuous Trojan horse of a film is being watched by the children of helicopter parents, and perhaps even adults who don't quite have the level of independence that our protagonist enjoys. Kiki is a country bumpkin, not that you really get that impression from her family in town, but in Kiki's interaction with the snooty witch, she's so impressed by the size of the cities that the young fortune teller has experienced, suggesting that Kiki's small town is like 27 people. That, and the fact that throughout the film, Kiki fails time and again to understand the concept of vehicular traffic. As thrilled as she is to begin her journey, Kiki's expectations about her life fall apart pretty quickly. Her perfect night to leave home ends with a thunderstorm. She gets rained out before she can find a new location. In the morning, she starts again and finds a beautiful seaside town. Initially, she's able to turn heads just by flying, but when she announces her presence to the people, they hurry along with their busy days. She tries to justify her independence as a young person to authority figures, but they insist on talking to her parents. Nothing she imagined about being a witch in training comes to pass. Once Kiki starts contributing to the community, she finds that people begin to reciprocate that effort. Osono takes an interest in her after Kiki flies the dummy back to the baby. When she goes above and beyond for Granny and Barsa, Granny pays her well, and they end up developing a good relationship. Kiki trades labor with the artist, and they eventually develop a good relationship. Even Osono's husband, our quiet little Aspie guy, crafts a sign made of bread for Kiki's delivery service. He recognizes her contributions and accepts her as a member of the household. But of course, Kiki learns that even her Herculean efforts are not always appreciated. On her way to deliver the toy cat to Rambunctious Boy, Kiki gets blown off course by a gust of wind, and then proceeds to get attacked by a murder of crows for almost crashing into one of their nests. During this mishap, she loses the little cat doll, and Gigi has to take its place. In the meantime, the cat doll was acquisitioned by the artist, its head nearly torn off. Kiki must then scrub floors to get the doll back with its head intact. Luckily, Jeff rather intuitively returns Gigi to Kiki and takes the cat doll back inside to Rambunctious Boy, who couldn't care less about the toy. This happens again with Granny and the herring pie. Granny's electric oven doesn't work, so Kiki offers to help get the wood-burning oven operational. On her way to deliver the pie, she gets caught in heavy rain, and the mean granddaughter, the recipient of the pie, just complains about the basket being soaked and how she's so sick of Granny's herring pies. Kiki works so hard to make that delivery happen, and this girl is so unappreciative of Kiki's efforts. It's so disheartening. Okay, I'm gonna be real. Kiki is focusing on the wrong thing. The client is not the receiver of the object. The client is the sender of the object. Yes, it would be nice if everyone was gracious about accepting gifts, but Kiki's client is Granny, not the mean granddaughter. Considering the granddaughter's behavior, one could infer that Granny is someone who gets overlooked by her grandchildren, and even probably her own children, considering that Barsa is her caregiver. Granny doesn't just find a delivery girl in Kiki, she finds a granddaughter surrogate. Regardless of how any recipient of a given delivery responds, Kiki seems to be able to satisfy the needs of her clients, the senders, and is able to earn a few bob in doing so. This is what success looks like. So yeah, the granddaughter. She looks Kiki up and down and just seems utterly repulsed by her. Kiki gets through this icky situation in a dignified fashion, but becomes depressed, realizing that people don't actually appreciate her work. She's a witch after all. Doesn't that make her a little bit special? Kiki is mad at Tombo when they first meet. This is directly after she announces herself as the town witch, and the people respond with apathy. Tombo runs to her excitedly, exclaiming,
"You gotta be a real witch! The way you can fly that broom!"
associating Kiki with an identity that nobody cares about. She just underwent a massive humiliation, and he inadvertently keeps reminding her of it. This is one of the biggest challenges of growing up. If you demonstrate some talent as a young person, it's easy for people to put you in a box. It's even easier for you to put yourself in that box and then define success with unrealistic metrics. It's good to try things and carve out a path for yourself, but it's unhealthy to make one aspect of your life your entire identity. Kiki makes the mistake of tying her self-worth to how others see her as the town witch. When they look at her with disgust, or even not at all, it's deeply upsetting. After taking a massive ego hit, Kiki loses her witch's powers. She becomes ill and develops a burgeoning ennui. The little kid who was so excited to start her witch's training is now a depressed young person who lost her spark. Luckily for Kiki, the artist needed some more supplies and just happened to be in the area. She takes Kiki back to her place out in the woods for a brief staycation and to counsel the young witch about the challenges of being an artist.
You see, I hadn't figured out what or why I wanted to paint. I had to discover my own style. When you fly, you rely on what's inside of you, don't you?
By losing her magic for a while, Kiki is able to get in touch with who she is beyond just being a witch. She's able to find value in herself beyond that one identity. And even though Kiki eventually regains her powers, she ultimately loses her intensely close relationship with Gigi. He's still her familiar and accompanies her on her deliveries, but they lose the ability to talk to each other, and unlike the first half of the film, they aren't together every minute of every day. By the end of the movie, Kiki is more established in town, and Gigi and his enemies-to-lovers partner have kittens. They're still close, but that hardcore childhood connection is severed for good. That's what growing up is. Your siblings, your childhood friends, those close bonds tend to erode when everyone starts maturing and living their own lives. There's a certain suggestion that witches are part of the underclass. It seems compulsory that witches pursue their training at a young age, and inherently they must serve a town that doesn't already have a witch. Is this a way to keep them from consolidating power? And yes, the snooty fortune teller seems to have a certain amount of social status, but she still wears purple. Kiki laments her ugly purple dress, and her mother retorts,
It's not really important what color your dress is. What matters is the heart inside.
is there some reason that we need to be able to easily identify witches with this very specific color? Is this a way to track them?
I wish I had something pretty to wear. My dress is so ugly.
Barca states that her great-grandmother told her about witches, and zero of the authority figures seem to recognize witch training as a legitimate life course. One can infer that big city life is not conducive to magic, and that witches from poorer, rural areas are made to serve in different communities. At least they get to choose where they land? Regardless of whether witches as a whole are part of the working class, Kiki definitely is. Throughout the film, her feelings of isolation are tied to being a worker, while the other kids are out chillin' with their friends. All of the clout and respect she thought she'd get from being the town witch ended up being a childish fantasy. When she finally hops on Tombo's death trap, it's the first time since she left home that she actually gets to enjoy being a kid. But even that gets destroyed when the mean granddaughter invites them to ride in the dirigible. Kiki could have gone, but then she would have been a target. Let's also acknowledge that Kiki performs labor for all of the people who eventually become her allies. Osona's deal for room, breakfast, and a place to launch her business include working at the bakery when she has free time. For an adult, that's more than a fair deal. For a child...
Gigi, if nobody comes in, I'm gonna have to eat pancakes forever and be fat, fat, fat!
She does all these chores around the house for Granny, and again, she scrubs the artist's floors. And yes, Kiki is generally someone who's willing to jump in and help out, but who are the sort of children who receive that message? Rich kids or the working class? Not saying kids shouldn't pitch in relative to their skill and developmental appropriateness, but I do wonder if Kiki being so well received isn't like 70% labor, 25% being a child, and 5% personality. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an ignorant American with too much privilege. And Tombo. Brev's only interest in Kiki is that she's a witch. She's pretty mean to him for a lot of the movie and rejects him several times. Even when she leaves him waiting in the rain and misses the party, he still comes back to her. Seriously, why would you do that? Most guys will eventually take no for an answer. Most guys. Kiki makes the observation that he never introduces himself to her. He keeps referring to her as Miss Witch. He invites her to hang out with the aviation club because she can fly. That's his interest in her. She's a spectacle. I mean, I guess they eventually develop a legitimate friendship, and the majority of Miyazaki's male romantic leads don't objectify their ladies that way, and both the novel and film were produced in the 1980s, so my modern sensibilities could be getting in the way of this cute coming-of-age story about a witch. Still, Tombo's a little... I do appreciate the level of care that went into animating his cycling movements, though. Despite her hardship, Kiki achieves a lot in a short time. Consider her trash garbage flying skills at the beginning of the story. By the end of the film, Kiki saves Tombo with a common street sweeping broom. Before she leaves home, Kiki makes her own broom, but her mom rejects it out of safety concerns, implying that the aerodynamics of a broom affect a witch's ability to fly. Before she takes off on the common broom, we see how much focus and energy she's putting into flying. She's never more singularly invested in something than she is in this moment, and when Tombo falls, Kiki is able to manifest a sort of floating effect. She successfully performed a variation on flying using her own wit and ingenuity. What's more, Kiki keeps the common broom, proudly bearing a token of her working class status. Okay. By saving Tombo, she wins the hearts and minds of the townspeople and is able to achieve some sort of work-life balance by hanging out with Tombo and his friends. She works through her depression and is able to find purpose in her work and identity without letting it consume her. Yay. Happy ending. Last thing, I just wanted to shout out Barca. She's so funny. As she watches the dirigible crash, she very excitedly pumps her fists and watches this disaster play out with a perverse enthusiasm. The reason Miyazaki is the GOAT, nay, why Studio Ghibli in general is in a league of its own, is that they grant specificity to even bit parts. All of their characters are important. Anyway, feel free to throw your gross herring pie at me in the comments. Bye.
Is the pie baked? Is it ready?
It seems fine. Now you'd better hurry.
Uh-huh.